So, welcome everyone to an episode of Energetic Explorations for Evolution. In this conversation, Beth Shekinah Terrence and I are going to share some information about the fall equinox and the eclipses we're in the midst of right now. Things are happening right now. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Andrea Hyland. And Beth and I have had a number of conversations about energetic explorations for evolution with astrology. We have a group on Facebook where we post things about energy and astrology as a way to support how we can all navigate the times that we are in. We like to find the power in the astrology and the energy that supports us and bolsters us. So the link to Facebook is in the show notes. And before we begin, just whatever's happening in your life right now, just take a moment, take a breath. If you're driving a car, do not close your eyes. But if you aren't, just pause with us for a moment and feel the power of this energetic connection that we have to each other. Taking a breath, letting everything else go. And even feeling that you are connected to the earth and to the nature all around you. We are nature. And that seems to be something that I want to share today, that we are nature. So just finishing that breath and continuing to feel in this state of relaxation, I'm going to turn this over to Beth to begin whenever you're ready, Beth.
Thanks, Andrea. I was so relaxed. I never forgot where we were.
I know. Good, good. Let's just be relaxed and have
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Beth Shekinah Terrence, and really excited to explore with you at this time of autumn equinox. And so we're going to just talk a little bit about that today and some of the other energetic things going on and do some practices together as well to help really harmonize and attune ourselves to the current energies. And as Andrea introduced, that's really what energetic explorations is all about. And sometimes it's that idea and actually came from my work with one of my mentors many years ago. His name was Bill Hennigan. He was a wonderful energy healer in the DC area. And I just remember so many times where I was going through something and I would call him and, I'd be weeping or anxious or all different feelings. And he would say, "Oh my gosh, like, five of my clients called me today and they're all feeling the same way." And like, and he's like, it's collective. There's our personal experience and journeys that we're going through, and then there's collective energies. And so we can easily sometimes just take that on as something's wrong with me. And we of course have our own personal journey and our inner work that we need to do, but to really hold that awareness of the bigger picture too, and that there's a lot of different things that are affecting us as spiritual beings, having a human experience and living in this earthly realm. So that's a big umbrella part of our intention as well. So just let's think about, I guess the other thing as we begin, I like to say we're in the northern hemisphere, so we're getting ready to celebrate autumn equinox, which is here on September 22nd, this coming Sunday at 8:44 a.m. Eastern time. And for folks in the southern hemisphere, you're moving towards your vernal or spring equinox. So just to have that awareness, we are focusing a little more on the energies of autumn since that's the energy that we're most affected by. But that also, you may just have a different experience, but that we're at this time of transition is very important. I think that it affects everyone wherever we are on the planet. So I wanted to start with a quote. Let's see, I have a few quotes I want to share. This one is by Hal Borland. He says, for the fall of the year is more than 3 months, bounded by an equinox and a solstice. It's a summing up without the finality of year's end. And so I do think it's a lot about a time of beginning to sum up and review our year as we move into this equinox time. And when the point of the equinox is when also the sun moves into the sign of Libra, which is an air sign, and you might be familiar with the sign of Libra, which is a scale. So there's that balancing aspect. Equinoxes are, time when there is that balance of the sunrise and sunset. And that we think about that idea of standing an egg on its end. So it's very much a balancing point. And Libra itself has an energy of balance and harmony, as well as relationship. And I'll share a little bit more about that as we go on. But just to really think of this time of autumn equinox, if we look at back to current times and past times, it's often a time of the harvest of when what was planted in the spring and summer has really grown. Some has already been gathered, and then there's more gathering. And there's also a beginning of letting go. We'll see, the trees, the leaves changing and dropping, perhaps the fields that have been harvested and are now cleared or tilled. And so it's that energy of, I guess we might say, birth and death, beginning and end. And so we often are, again, and especially living in our modern world, not as attuned to those energies that are happening. We might notice them outside, but to begin to think of them as something that we are experiencing energetically as well. And I guess I'll just share from my personal experience, and I noticed this week. We also had an eclipse this week, and I want to share a little more about that. But particularly the transition into autumn or spring, they're more intense energetic shifts than when we're moving from into winter and summer, because the energy is, where summer is yang, very expansive, and winter is contracted, but it's actually reached its greatest point. In the equinox, although we have this balance, there's an intensity of that shift. In terms of autumn, we're moving into a more inner and contracted state toward that real still point of winter. And so that can bring up a lot of different feelings in people. It can be often a sense of overwhelm and a stirring of a lot of emotions. And I find that people struggle sometimes at this time with overwhelm, with anxiety, with depression. Feelings intensify. And so I know I personally struggled with that a lot. It's another reason I've found getting in tune with energy and the change of seasons has helped me in my own overall well-being and recovery in terms of depression and mental health. But I really noticed people struggling this week, and just feel like it's so important to know that this is a cycle, and that with every season there will be a change. So just to honor that intensity that you might feel as we go through this time. And again, think about the harvest, the gathering. So it could be a good time to reflect on your life from this year, what you've experienced, and what you want to gather and take with you. And then also begin to clear out and let go. We often, talk about that spring cleaning, but also in the fall is another time sometimes that we're doing some clearing and letting go, just as the leaves are falling, the trees are shedding. We can begin to resonate or harmonize with that energy as well. And I wanted to share a little bit about Chinese medicine, their view of autumn. They really have a concept that I love, which again relates to this transitional time and kind of see it as a bridge of carrying the yang of or the outer energy that we've had in summer and begin to, which is very open and expansive, and we're beginning to bring it down and more into the inner and the yin as we move towards winter. And so that just to honor that, even to the level of physicality, we kind of we focus a lot on energy here, but even the physicality and what we need and the organs in Chinese medicine associated with autumn are related to the metal element, and they're the lung and large intestine, which both have to do with absorption and elimination. We breathe in, we breathe out. Our large intestine takes food in and it eliminates it. So there's that, that taking in and letting go. And so thinking about that, even on the physical level, as well as the emotional. And then the emotion associated with this season is grief and loss. And it's very common to feel a lot of sadness during this time, to have, feelings of grief rise up, even if a loss hasn't been recent. And so just to have that awareness as well, it can be a beautiful time to work on our grief. Grief is not linear. It's not something that we've had a loss and we've grieved it and we're done. Different times, anniversaries, different experiences in our life are going to stir those losses. And so now is a time those feelings really may be stirred. And so it's an opportunity to work with that and also just to really remember to be gentle and loving with ourselves. And that opportunity is always there. But as we get in touch with those tender places in ourselves, that is an opportunity that we can work with. So just really want to encourage you to think about this idea of harmonizing with the energies of the season. Spending time in nature can be a really beautiful way to do that. And, as you observe the beauty of the changing leaves, the colors, and then, big as things begin to drop or shift, this moving into that energetic, more starkness of winter, which will then take us more into our own essence. And there's that opportunity there. So I really feel, in a way, autumn is every season is of life, a return to ourselves. But in autumn, we're again moving from that very outer expanded energy and then beginning to wade into ourselves again. So I think it's a very sacred time. And in many spiritual traditions, there's, celebrations and different festivals or rituals. The Jewish tradition is actually the New Year at this time. And then if we look towards later in the autumn, in Mexican and South American church, the Day of the Dead. So just thinking about that grief, it's often seen as a time when the veils are thinner and when perhaps it's described as our ancestors come to visit us. So we may have some visits in our dreams or just in our, even waking state, to be open to that. And again, that in between space that occurs as we're in that transition. So this year is interesting. The equinoxes can vary in when they are, and they often are around the equinox. But this year, the equinox is actually sandwiched by eclipses. We had a partial lunar eclipse this past, it was Tuesday night here in my time, Eastern time. It might have been on Wednesday on the 17th or 18th, depending on your location. And so eclipses are considered a period of major transformation, of endings, beginnings, death, and rebirth. And so this partial lunar eclipse was at 25 degrees, 41 minutes of Pisces, and it opposed the sun and Virgo. And so it's actually the beginning of a new cycle of eclipses. We've been in a Libra and Aries cycle of eclipses since 2023. And so it will begin to shift, and we'll have a couple more that are in the Aries Libra cycle, including one that is on the other side of the equinox on October 2nd. So that's interesting because we're talking about this period of transformation of the equinox, and it's bookended, I'll say, maybe is a better term than sandwiched by two eclipses. And so really it feels to me that this time this year, and particularly with all of the energies and things that are happening collectively on our planet and individually, that it's a very potent alchemical container. And what is alchemy? Alchemy is the old ancient alchemists would turn lead into gold. And so, but that's working to transform what's within us, perhaps looking at the shadow, the things that are no longer serving us, and beginning to work on transforming and releasing them. And the energy of this time really supports that gathering and releasing is very much about the energy of autumn and the equinox. So just to really I encourage you to take some time to see this as this potent container, particularly in the next couple of weeks. And even as we go through autumn, there's no hurry, and we all work on our own natural rhythms. So we're all a little bit different there. But just in terms of this lunar eclipse, they're kind of, and I know a lot of people just from what I've heard and read, experienced kind of deep emotional tides, we might say. And so it's an opportunity. Sometimes we connect more with our subconscious patterns when the moon is shadowing the earth. You may have had intense dreams. I know I had some this past week. So thinking about this, we're beginning to wade into this new eclipse cycle of Pisces and Virgo. And astrologer that I like, Sally Kirkman, she said that's an axis of order versus chaos. That's kind of how some things were feeling to me this week. I don't know about you, but also, Virgo's very detailed, and Pisces is like more boundless. And so just thinking about that, those different energies. And also Virgo can have to do with service and sacrifice, Pisces with surrender. So there's an opportunity for that as well as we begin to move through this energy. So, and then on October 2nd, we're going to have the solar eclipse, which will be on the new moon, and the new moon in late Aries. And so this new moon packs a punch, I guess I'll just say. We've been on this Aries Libra axis, which can have more to do with asserting our independence, assertiveness in and of itself, as well from the Aries energy, and um, Libra and healthy relating. And I'm just realizing it's that the solar eclipse and new moon is that 10 degrees of Libra. So just to clarify that. So, and then thinking about that as an opportunity to, again, reset, rethink. New moons are a new beginning. We have that every month. We have this opportunity. We go through all these cycles that we're talking about maybe in a year or in our lifetime, and we have every month this opportunity with the new moon. And so a solar eclipse on the new moon is very potent and can invite us to really reflect inwardly and reassess our paths and begin to make changes and set intentions for that. So again, this is a potent time, even more so than the equinox alone this year. It's framed by this eclipse period. And so, gathering, taking time to reflect, to gather. I like to call it when we reflect on our lives and our experiences and what we've learned, gathering medicine. So what is the medicine that you have learned this year, and what is it that you want to carry forward with you? And then also, what are the things you need to let go of? What feelings, patterns, beliefs, maybe even physical things or relationships is a time for you to let go of? This is a time to enter into that container and to be in that alchemical process as we move through this time. You're very much supported by that. So I think I've said enough, and I'm gonna pass it back to Andrea. I know she has some insights and always such beautiful wisdom to share.
Thank you, Beth. And as usual, I was taking notes as you were speaking and just really letting your wisdom and your ability to put words to what's happening astrologically. So I appreciate you and thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's always interesting because Beth and I have a Google Doc where we share some ideas before we come to do an energetic explorations for evolution episodes. We always have that, and we have several conversations. And I'm always amazed at how independently we've kind of woven in things, even if we haven't said it to each other yet. So I want to begin by just saying, once again, we are nature. And I don't know about you, but I grew up with things that we did in nature, but not the words that we are nature. That if you looked at a circle and, well, maybe another way to say it, in this modern world, I feel like we are trying to find our way back to the connection between air, water, earth, metal, fire, ether, and humans, and that we're all in a circle together, that the trees are not outside of us. They're in the circle and we are connected to the trees in ways that we're not even aware of. And I was reflecting this morning that it always seems easier for women to feel some kind of connection to nature because of our bodies, that some of the fundamental things like menstruation, that even with the slightest awareness that we have a monthly cycle, that there were always conversations around the moon or around tides or around realizing that women who all worked together or who lived together would many times have a calibration of their menstrual cycle happening, like this connection where they were all menstruating at the same time. And so there was, even not even realizing we are nature, there was some connection around that. And I remember when I went through perimenopause into menopause, that I grieved the loss of my menstrual cycle because I connected it to information about how to take care of my health. And I wondered, how to how would I know when my body needed different foods? How would it know that I needed a different sleep cycle? Because I connected this with my menstrual cycle, knowing, oh, I need a little more sleep this time of the month. I need certain different foods. And so little by little, once I entered menopause, the connecting to nature and being aware of the cycles really helped inform me about my body. And I was thinking this morning about how, like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, we women and men have had the power and connection with nature all along because we are nature, but we've been disconnected from it. So our bodies are water, fire, ether, air, earth, we are the elements and everything's connected. And so we are connected to the nature cycles, like Beth had been saying when she was talking, we're connected to this. And then astrology and the placement of planets can inform us even more about how to use the power that is within us and all around us. And I'm talking about personal power, an energy source that we have that's available to us. And then I was reflecting this morning about the spring and fall equinoxes, the autumn equinox, that they're reminders of this equal day and night. And I was thinking about, because it's funny, because I was awakened at 1 a.m. with all these ideas about a talk that I'm putting together for next week. And finally I just surrendered, got up, wrote down the notes, and then really sat with this conversation that we were going to have today. And I thought, you know, there's like a 24-hour cycle that's going to be happening in on planet Earth, where we're reminded of equal day and night. So whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, there is the energy of the equinox. Whether we're in the spring or the fall, it's still happening all over the planet, that we have this blip of a moment. And then solstices in winter and summer have the northern and southern hemisphere divided. One has the longest daylight, one has the longest night. And that's a type of balance also that we're experiencing on the planet. So the equinox has equal day and night all over the planet. And for a moment, we can focus on this balance and harmony. And then in the next moment, we are moving to another cycle. It's only here for this short time. And so in the northern hemisphere, we're moving towards winter and stillness right after the equinox happens. And so we are at a time of endings and beginnings. And I was thinking about how the rituals can include letting go of something to make room for something else. And it could be, a simple thing of clear something out of a closet, a drawer, or a shelf. I'm in my daughter's home right now for another week or so, and she decided to clear through a lot of books from just jobs and things that she's had in the past. And so we've been distributing those books to little free libraries and giving them away at different swaps and everything. So giving something away can make room for what is to come. And you can also use fire for some kind of ceremony of release, write something on paper and, release it in that way. So even with all the ideas, the insights that we might be receiving during this time, things that you're being called to do other than clearing, it's a good time to be still and wait for what else there is to be revealed. So writing down the insights and waiting for the next step. One other thing I wanted to, and again, Beth and I are coming at this from the same angle and different angles. And something I was thinking about was the impact of each equinox lasting until the next solstice. So it's kind of like 3 months of impact of like you activate something at this time and then see how it all of these times where there's an equinox or a solstice, there's some kind of seed that's planted or some kind of awareness that surfaces. And as Beth was saying, that this is an interesting one right now because it's like eclipse, equinox in the center, and eclipse, and this just intensification of energy that's happening. And to know that with the eclipses, it's like a 6-month cycle that something gets awakened, activated, highlighted, stirred up. I even was talking with clients this week where it was almost like things were shaken up in a way that it was like, wait, what was that sediment at the bottom of the cup? That's all of a sudden I'm seeing it. And it's like, well, let's just filter it out. It's just being cleared out, cleaned out. And what is it reflecting to you right now? And I'll put this in the show notes, but something to just think about is the spring equinox was March 19th, 2024. I'll put the dates down there so you could take a look at it if you want to. And then the eclipse window happened right after it, March 25th to April 8th, with a Libra lunar eclipse and an Aries solar eclipse. And so I was thinking about how there were some things that happened during that window that I just saw come to another, like something else was connected. And yeah, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And again, it's not to do anything right now, but I'm writing it down. And so there are three other quick things I just want to share. Things that something I always look at is, okay, we know the astrology, we know the timing of this cycle, we know that something's happening, but what else am I noticing around me? Am I noticing a pattern of anything? Am I noticing, like I said, something that happened 6 months ago is surfacing in a new way? So one thing I was really aware of this week, or past 2 weeks actually, is increased synchronicity. It feels very rapid. There was one day where I randomly took a book out of the bottom of a box of books that I had by my bed, and I was reading something, and then I opened up the Chani app and I read something, and she said the same thing I had just read. It was just like, okay, this book was written in 1993. I haven't even looked at it in 10 years. Okay, just on this day, I happened to have them both there together. So reading something in a book, overhearing the same thing in a conversation, dreaming something, as Beth was talking about dreaming, or woven into an episode of a TV show, even. Like synchronicity is always happening. It just feels like it's happening faster. So right now, I encourage you, whenever you see something like that, to just write it down. You may not know why it's happening. That's okay. Just acknowledging it will increase and expand your consciousness around it. And it may be that it's preparation for something that's down the road. So maybe the way your higher consciousness is trying to get your attention around something, and something that can be how to access your power. The second thing I wanted to share is that I've really been thinking a lot about social media and artificial intelligence. Since 2007, the larger collective has been playing with social media to and we've all been trying to find the balance between the benefits and the shadow. I mean, especially for those of us who use it for personal connections and professional connections. And I want to say, I am so grateful to Facebook for secret Facebook groups. It has been a brilliant place for connecting and sharing, and it's been free. And it's helped me connect to people all over the world. And I love those intimate groups. I love that we have our energetic group in a free Facebook group where people can. So finding the balance with that is an ongoing practice. And the equinox is a great time to review what's working and what is not working around balance. And then I had something happen yesterday around artificial intelligence, where, again, this is going to be something that we also find balance. I've used it with one of my coaches this year as a brainstorming tool. And then, but yesterday I saw someone who took it to the next level that I know I won't use it this way, but it was something that they were using. So, and even if you don't want to use it, someone in your life will use it and it will cross your path. So I downloaded a book yesterday where someone I know had used a concept of 5 principles. And what I didn't realize was they had used AI to write the book. So I know the original keys were that person, but as I read the words in the book, I was like, this doesn't even sound like this person at all. Like I couldn't find, and then every once in a while I'd be like, oh, well, those few words sounded like something they'd use. But for the most part, I didn't see it. And I even wondered if is this a theoretical thing he's thinking about, or is he living his life this way? Because there was nothing that I saw in the book that connected with him as a person, and I haven't experienced him with these principles. So I just wondered why someone would want to use AI to replace their voice. I really value personal stories that are written in a way that I feel like I'm sitting at a table in a coffee shop listening to the person. And the book I downloaded just felt impersonal with story examples that came out of a database. So, I mean, like the author doesn't even know the people who were the case studies. So I wouldn't use AI in this way. This is a choice he made in writing the book. And I feel like, once again, it speaks to the balance of what is good about technology and where do we lose ourselves. So each of us need to decide how we want to use technology, social media, as well as everything else in our life, the choices and decisions. Um, and then one more thing before I hand this back to Beth. I've noticed a tension and feeling the squeeze of energy over specifically the last week, or maybe even it's something where even at the end of August, I looked at this time period just in terms of my schedule, and I thought, whoa, everything is landing. And like next week, it's even more so as we lead into the October 2nd time. And just as an example about two different planets, like Saturn is structure and foundation, and Jupiter wants to expand. So there can be a tension between these two types of energies. And it just feels like for the past week or so, I've had a deadline every day where I can feel the tension, something that I might think that normally I'd work on something for a week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to create that in the next 24 hours, or I've got to create 3 or 4 things all in the same day that I'll work on for the next week. Anyway, I've amped up my self-care, sleep routines, played with the compression every day, making lists, compartmentalizing what's the next deadline. Like that helps me. So even when I woke up this morning with a flood of ideas for a talk I'm giving next week, I finally got out of bed, wrote down the key ideas, and then I just turned my attention to, all right, this is a conversation I'm having with Beth today. And then after this, I'm going to focus on a writing deadline I have for my next book. So, there are things we can do to support ourselves during a time of tension, and even know that immersion around something for a few weeks has power in it. So navigating it in a way that supports your nervous system and your skill set gives us an opportunity. All right. I feel like I've talked for a long time and I have other notes, but I'm gonna leave it like that and just turn it back to you, Beth.
Thanks, Andrea. Gosh, I was taking notes too. Gems. I always love all that you share. So, yeah. So, I know the squeeze. I think that I was feeling it, and yeah, I mean, this year maybe more so. I mean, and, you think about it, back to school, September, like, it always seems, summers, everything's a little more relaxed, and then we're like back to work, back to school, things get busier. That's kind of a way of life, but um, it is also that energy's contracting, So, and actually for me, I find, and we always talk about this when we get ready to do something around the winter solstice, like I'm so impacted by the contractive energy, like but as we're getting closer to it, that I don't even want to do anything outside, but that's a very social time too. So I think that's part of like attuning to those natural rhythms, and you really touched on, the self-care and how to ramp that up, or like what do you need differently during this season than you might have needed during, winter or spring or summer. That's something, and for a lot of people too, I think, we're starting to need some more rest and renewal as
Mhm.
as the days change and just that intensity. So, but some folks are much more sensitive to the contraction and the squeeze than others. So I mean, and there's the outer busyness, but then inwardly and emotionally. So I think it's good that we kind of hit that hit that
Well,
nugget.
let me say one other thing too, is that it's the cycle within the cycle, because something you've also highlighted is that this is Pisces and Libra, but
Mhm.
that's not what it's going to be the next eclipse cycle. So that can even hit us differently. And I was even thinking about how I am a Pisces rising with a Libra sun. And so it may have even been there was, even waking up before we did, in the middle of the night is part of just feeling that intensity. And so there might be another eclipse season where I sleep deeper, and where
Definitely.
it's
Yeah.
in the chart. So I'll just end with that for my share here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think just for folks listening to look at your personal, if it's something you resonate with, look at your personal astrology and how the eclipse, where it's hitting in your natal chart is a good thing to do too. So, yeah, the eclipse was right on my natal Saturn at 25 degrees Pisces, so that was pretty intense. And I'm
Mhm.
beginning my second Saturn return, so I just felt like, oh, this is really like sort of I've been wading into it, but feels like sort of moving through the portal, so to speak. So yeah, it is so interesting. So um, okay, so we were going to do a meditation to just kind of harmonize a little bit with the season and just have a practice or a tool that you can utilize to help support that both gathering and letting go and balance at this time. So I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable position. If you're sitting on a chair, you can have your feet flat on the floor. You can sit on the floor, or even if you feel to, you can lie down, but sitting probably is good for this one. And just when you feel ready, you can gently close your eyes or just have a soft gaze downward in front of you. Again, if you're driving, come back to this later. And as we begin, let's take a moment and just really feel yourself wherever you are, feeling the earth beneath your feet, that support that comes from Mother Earth, our nurturer, sustainer, and feeling the energies above, source, spirit, creation, creator, however you may connect with that, energies of spirit. And feeling the energies of the east, the dawn of the new day, the way of the rising sun, of the south, of the noonday sun, the light illuminating us, heart, mind, and spirit, connecting to the west, the setting sun, the road home to spirit, strengthening, and bringing our courage to the surface, and connecting to the north, the sacredness within, the light within the dark, place of deep connection with source of ancestors. Really feel yourself aligned in all directions, above, below, to the east, south, west, and north. Mm, feeling the connection to the land that you're residing on, honoring that land, the spirits of that land, those who've lived there for you. Just take a moment to ask that this practice be for your own highest good and for that of all beings. And so now bringing your breath and awareness down to your root center or root chakra, right at the base of your spine, right where your body meets your seat, where the earth meets your feet. And as you breathe there at that root center, which connects you to your physical body, to the material realm, to the earth itself, just notice how that feels for a moment. Sometimes it feels open and spacious. Sometimes you feel some tension or constriction. Just noticing as you breathe. And then on your next breath, I'd like you to imagine dropping lines of energy, just like the roots of a tree, from the base of your spine and from your feet down into the earth. You can really just imagine them as the roots of a tree, if that's helpful. And going as deep as you feel to go into Mother Earth to make that connection, to feel rooted, anchored, connected. And as you make that connection, feel that nurturing, nourishing energy of Mother Earth. Know that you are a part of Mother Earth. And so I'll invite you to take some gathering breaths, breathing up from the base of those roots, deep in the earth. And as you breathe up on your in-breath, just imagine that you're gathering all the nurturing, nourishing, healing energy of Mother Earth you need in this moment to be balanced and healthy and whole. Draw that up on your in-breath all the way to your root center at the base of your spine. Exhaling there to receive that nourishment, to gather that medicine. And if there happens to be any excess, it falls back to the earth as compost. Take some gathering breaths in that way, really receiving that nurturing, nourishing energy, that sustenance. And just noticing how that feels to open, to connect, to receive, to gather. And then on your next breath up, just bringing the breath to that root center, letting it rest there, breathing in and out, perhaps noticing any shifts or changes since you began. Just checking in body, mind, emotion, and spirit. And then bringing your breath and awareness up through the center of your body, right through the central channel or core, into your heart center, right in the center of your chest. Center of love, compassion, kindness, gentleness for yourself and for others. And as you breathe there, just noticing again, does it feel open and spacious? Do you notice any constriction or tension? Just noticing. And taking a moment to offer yourself some loving kindness and compassion. On your in breath, just breathing in the energy of love and compassion, kindness, letting it fill your heart. As you breathe out, letting it surround and envelop you. Really letting yourself be filled with love and kindness and compassion. Knowing that's something that you can gather into yourself, into your heart, to your whole being in each and every moment. And just envisioning that you're going a little deeper into your heart center, to the center of your heart, to the heart of your heart, to a very still place that exists deep within the center of your heart. And from there, I'll invite you to ask in this moment if there's something you feel to release or let go. Just invite that to bubble up from that deep place of heart center. It may come as a word, an image, or a feeling. If there's something you feel to let go of in this moment. And if something comes, just imagine gathering it with your breath and awareness. And sending it down through that central core of your body, through your root center, the base of your spine, down into the earth, through your lines or roots of energy. Just releasing that. And if it's not clear, it could just be the intention of letting go, whatever needs to be released. And then moving up into your heart center once again, with your breath and awareness. Asking if there's anything else to be released in this moment. It may come as a word, an image, a feeling, and gathering as it comes with your breath and awareness. Sending it down into the earth through the center of your body, through your roots. Letting Mother Earth receive it and transform it to compost. You can pause and continue if you'd like to do more of this. For now, I'll invite you again to gather some energy from the earth up through your roots or lines of energy, really receiving that nourishment all the way up through the root, through the center of your body, into your heart. Really breathe in that nurturing energy of Mother Earth. And feeling that connection, that anchored rootedness that you can create in each and every moment. Feeling it merge with that loving kindness and compassion that is the essence of your being in your heart center. And then taking a moment there in that deep center of your heart, reconnecting if you need to go a little deeper and deeper to that place of stillness deep within your heart. And invite an intention to emerge for yourself for this moment, for this time of equinox, for this eclipse period, for this alchemical process of healing, transformation, and integration. Invite an intention to bubble up from deep within your heart center. Whether it comes very clearly or you hold the energy of that intention, begin to gather that with your breath and awareness. Send it down through your core, through your root, and your roots into the earth. And imagine as it's released through your roots into the earth that it lands as seeds that Mother Earth can receive and begin to nourish and nurture as you go through this time so that it can become manifest. Your heart's intention. And letting all of the imagery go for this time. I'll invite you to finish by taking some parallel breaths, breathing up from the earth, letting it flow like a wave of energy all the way up through your body and exhaling out the top of your head. And then breathing up from above, from source, spirit, and letting the breath flow like a wave of energy as you breathe in, just carrying that in breath all the way through your body, like a wave or a waterfall, and exhaling back into the earth. And then breathing up again from the earth, inhaling all the way through your body, exhaling out the top of your head. And just continuing with a few breaths from heaven to earth and earth to heaven. Feeling yourself supported above and below. Allowing this flow of energy to clear and release anything that needs to be moved at this time. Knowing it's also helping to align and fortify your energy field. And your next breath down, just letting the breath go into the earth. Just bringing your breath and awareness back to your heart center. If it's helpful, you may wish to place a hand on your heart. And as you breathe there, just really take a moment to honor yourself for being present, for being willing to connect deeply with yourself, to harmonize with the energy of the season, and to come into a place of greater healing, transformation, and integration as you move consciously and compassionately in your life, your relationships, and the world. So now you can take a few deeper breaths, Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Move your hands and feet if you like. Take your own timing and opening your eyes and coming back when you feel ready.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was really wonderful. Well, I mean, I'm always willing to share the specifics of my life, and I'm not going to go into the specifics other than to say there was something like I had something coming up around releasing, but I couldn't figure out a word. And then by just staying with it, a word came that kind of surprised me. And then I understood why that word that I might attach another meaning to was important in this particular situation. So, yeah. So, again, I'm not going to, sometimes sharing a story can be beneficial, other times it can be confusing and take us off track. So, I'm not going to go into it just to say that, allow yourself to be surprised by what comes up. And then I had some places where it was just, okay, like you said, like let it be empty for now and wait, and something can bubble up later. So I had both and things
Hmm.
happen. So thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and you
cool.
just reminded me, just to suggest, to folks who are listening, that you can do some journaling after a process like this. And also as you go through this time, it can be a good time to journal about, what you're feeling and experiencing, and then thinking about those things that you're harvesting or gathering and letting go, and you can actually, whether it comes from inside in that way, consciously create a list of the things you're feeling to let go of and begin to work on that, through a process like this, or energetically in some way.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm feeling very complete with what we have shared, and I'm not really feeling like there's anything else that I want to say, maybe to just give us, and maybe there's something you have. And
I have a
also,
quote. I probably have a quote.
I know, I was thinking that, and I don't know, is there anything you want to share with the listeners about events that are coming up that you're either connected with or highlighting, or anything else like that?
Yeah, I did have a couple of things. I'm actually doing an autumn shamanic workshop that I've done in the past locally, but I've decided to do it more as a virtual retreat this year. And that will be the weekend of November 2nd and 3rd on Zoom. It will be uh, I think 10 to 2 each day, somewhere around there, with some breaks, and with the intention of kind of being in a container for those 2 days. The topic is letting go, embodying life, honoring our ancestors and ourselves, and we'll really attune to the energies of autumn and the season. So if you're looking for a container to work on transformation at this time, I'll invite you to join me. I will put a link in the show notes, and you can always visit my website as well, which will be linked in the show notes. And then I am available for one-on-one shamanic, holistic transformation sessions and programs. You can visit my website, which is bethshekinah.com. And I also have some free resources we'll put in the show notes, as well as some audio practices on SoundCloud that you can access as resources. And then lastly, I just wanted to share, I am the speaker coordinator for the NCGR Chesapeake, um, which is an international astrology association, and I'm involved in my local chapter, but most of our events are virtual at this time. And so our September event is Friday, September 27th at 7 on Zoom. It's on Becoming Saturn. So if you're interested in Saturn, they'll be really focused around the energy of Saturn. It's within this great, amazing astrologer, Catherine O'Connell, and she will talk about first, second, and third Saturn returns. And as I mentioned, I'm doing entering my second, so it's very timely. So we'll have a link about information and registration there as in the show notes as well.
Well, all of those are going to be
I'm always
wonderful.
on Facebook and social media as well. We can connect there too.
Yeah,
And please join Andrea and I in the Energetic Explorations for Evolution Facebook group.
and again, there are all kinds of links, so just explore, see what you're drawn to. And the one thing I'm going to say is that this is the uh, time of year where I offer an annual incubator for women. It's an online co-working space for women creatives who are working on creative projects like books, blogs, programs, and there are always a group of women who are reflecting on the age-old question of who am I? As talk about Saturn return, it's like we go through these cycles, and just like all the cycles we've been talking about, where we're looking at our lives in because there's something that's changing or something that's bubbling up for us. So and I always write about a topic in there just as a way of putting in some questions to think about with your life or with the project you're working on. So this year it's up-leveling archetypes, rewriting the stories of women and men. So that'll be the exploration. So again, lots of links in the show page so you can find ways to come and play with us in different ways. And the Facebook group is always open and is an easy way also to connect.
Great.
Yeah.
And your incubators are amazing. So I always enjoy
Thank you.
participating and I come back again and again. And the women, many returning people, but new people. But really, if you're wanting to not just writing, connect and explore, it's just and be creative in whatever way that emerges. It's just a beautiful space.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I think that's a wrap. Do you have a quote?
So I do have a quote.
Okay,
I don't know
awesome.
why I this one I just surprised me. So it's by Friedrich Nietzsche.
Okay.
And he said, I notice that autumn is more the season of the soul than of nature. I
Mm,
notice that autumn is more the season of the soul than of nature.
very interesting. There we go. You're leaving us with something to even think about more.
To meditate on.
Yeah, meditate on that. See what that is. So thank you,
Uh,
Beth.
yeah,
And
thank
thank
you.
you
Thanks,
to
everyone.
thanks to the listeners. And please, write some comments about what your thoughts are about this season or about any of the topics that we brought up also. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would
Right.
definitely.
Bye bye now, everyone. Thanks.
Bye bye.